On the edges of the Republican National Convention, a high-level panel discussion on international issues. In the audience, a delegation from the Republic of Georgia.
Whoever will be elected, we are absolutely confident that from both parties, Georgia will have a very strong support.
Support and access. The delegation met with both parties' campaigns. The short war in Georgia was fought with bullets and sound bites.
That Russians have violated every point of it. They're going through really just killing people. We have this small, tiny democracy under attack from a giant neighbor, Russia.
In the early hours of the conflict, Georgia's English-speaking, U.S.-educated president, Mikhail Saakashvili, gave a stream of live interviews to international media outlets, including CNN.
We believe that we are not alone, that we will be free, but we'll be free because free world also wants us to be free.
Saakashvili pitched his message to a Western audience, using words like democracy and freedom. Moscow tried to counter that with daily Russian-language briefings by an army general. It took 3 weeks before Russia's top leaders agreed to interviews with Western reporters. Meanwhile, a flood of editorials, most of them critical of Russia, hit key U.S. newspapers. A new website appeared, sosgeorgia.org, critical of Russia and frequently hacked, supported, it said, by the Georgian government and a number of other unnamed sources. SOS Georgia placed a full-page ad in the Wall Street Journal linking Lenin and Stalin with Putin. Russia told its story in a supplement to the Washington Post. Both Georgia and Russia use high-powered Western PR agencies and lobbyists in their outreach to the government, the media, and the public. But Georgia, ever since its independence, has had deep friendships here in Washington among Democrats and Republicans. Randy Scheineman, for example, foreign policy advisor to Republican presidential candidate John McCain, was a paid lobbyist for Georgia. Senator Joe Biden, the Democratic Party's vice presidential candidate, made a fact-finding trip to Tbilisi, Georgia, shortly after the Georgian conflict ended. But Moscow, too, is trying to leverage its influence, according to the U.S. State Department's point person on Georgia and the region.
Russia has been pumping in millions and millions of dollars into PR firms and, of course, has all kinds of contacts and inroads throughout U.S. society. In the government, in business, in the banking sector, Russia is becoming a wealthier country. And so there are a lot of vested interests throughout this town on both sides of the aisle that would like to see the tension with Russia go away.
The fighting may have stopped, but both sides have their own arsenal of public relations spin ready to launch again. Jill Doherty, CNN, Washington.
U.S. Vice President Dick Cheney came to Tbilisi to symbolically, if not literally, deliver the check on a $1 billion American promise to help build Georgia after its military conflict with Russia.
America will do its duty to work with the governments of Georgia and our other friends and allies to protect our common interest and to uphold our values.
The plan calls for Georgia to receive half the $1 billion pledge this year and the rest next year, if Congress says okay, after a new administration takes office. And the plan has bipartisan support. 2 weeks ago, Democratic vice presidential nominee Joe Biden came home from a visit to Georgia, recommending a $1 billion boost in U.S. aid for the former Soviet republic. Georgia is strategically located in Central Asia and part of a crucial energy pathway for gas and oil out to the west. What Cheney calls Russia's invasion of Georgia in August, Moscow says was necessary action to resolve the disputed status of 2 Georgian breakaway regions. Widely criticized for changing Georgia's borders by force, Russia now recognizes the 2 regions as independent. Nicaragua is the only other nation to do so.
Russia's actions have cast grave doubt on Russia's intentions and on its reliability as an international partner.
Cheney has been a longtime critic of the Kremlin, so if Cheney's visit is seen in Georgia as a snub to Russia, Moscow is not impressed. Russian President Dmitry Medvedev on Wednesday called Georgian President Saakashvili a political corpse, according to the Washington Post. Russian leaders are also speculating that the U.S. humanitarian and rebuilding package could evolve to military aid.
Even though the U.S. emphasizes that it is not for military purposes, the Georgians can take this money and divert other money they would have used for something else for military purchases.
Cheney also visits Kiev on this trip, meeting with Ukrainian President Viktor Yushchenko. Washington supports both Ukraine and Georgia's bids to join NATO, but after Georgia's tussle with Russia's military might, Georgia would need Western aid to rebuild its military to NATO expectations. Alfonso Van Marsh, CNN, London.
These are very strong words coming out of Washington, out of the United States, aren't they?
Not the strongest. I've heard stronger.
This whole episode over Georgia, though, seems to have severely damaged relationships between the United States and Russia. Yet Russia doesn't seem to be too concerned about that.
Not our choice. It's not our choice. Nothing we did there had anything to do with pipelines, be it gas pipelines or oil pipelines. As for the Georgia being small and democratic, well, small is beautiful, and Georgia is beautiful. I love Georgia, and I love Georgian people.